Hi everyone. Hi, super excited to trial this. It's the first of many to come. So really excited to share ideas, great opportunity to network and so on. So again, I think it's going to be a great opportunity just to connect with people. What I'm going to do as well, because we've effectively changed the link, there was a bit of an issue with the previous link. I'm going to share that link with everyone now on social media. So if you bear with me 1 second. This is going to be a great opportunity every week where we're going to answer some of your questions and just create a bit of a debate and go on a journey really with each other. There's been some great questions that have come through already, which is what I'm really excited about, diving into in a bit more detail. I'm going to share that link with everyone now. So you should all get a notification of that, which is great. And I will also update you in the platform as well. Brilliant. So there's quite a few of you trying to log in now, which is great. And it's great to see that there's actually people who are using our app. The biggest thing that's excited me about creating the app is that we're trying to create content that goes beyond the what and looks more into not just the who, but the how and the why. And that's going to be something that's going to be really key throughout this whole experience, where we're looking to try and spark curiosity, go into a bit of a debate, and really connect with people and make people curious about their practice and what it is that they do. So again, this is going to be something that'll be weekly. It'll be live every week. Spend roughly around 20 minutes discussing some of the key topics and key trends that are, you know, on people's minds right now. So this is where we're going to be. This is where all the action is going to happen. So we've now got an updated link in the app, which is great. The previous link, for some reason, created a massive echo. I'm not quite sure why, but this one seems to be a lot better. I've played it back, and there doesn't appear to be any echo, which is good. So I'm going to share this with everyone now. Just put out a massive alert on Twitter to say, "Hey to the world, we're here, live stream, tune in." If you've got any questions, feel free to populate the group chat. I'm actually seeing some questions pop through now on the app, which is great. Feel free to populate the YouTube platform as well. Perfect. So that's gone on Twitter as well, the new link, which is great. And it's great to see people accessing the app more and more. So there's a few people that I can see on our end doing that. So first of all, thank you if you're watching this live. Great. We're going to get better at it every time. It's the first ever live stream that I've ever done, and certainly the first one that I've done on the app. And obviously, the app's the biggest game changer for us because I'm wanting to create coach education, which can literally be easily accessible, affordable, and tailored to your every needs. So we've got users on the platform right now in America, in Canada, in France, Portugal, you name it, right over to places like New Zealand, Australia, all accessing the platform, all trying to find ways to stay curious. So this has been my biggest sort of motivation and inspiration, which is how can we spark curiosity in people and get people thinking beyond the what, going into the who, the how, and the why. So what's the relevance to your environment? So again, it's everything tailored to you. And And the beauty thing of this is that you'll be able to watch it back, and it should stay on our YouTube channel. So for anyone who hasn't watched it via YouTube or via our app, they'll certainly be able to watch it and take any key bits away, which will be pretty cool. So as we dive in, I'm going to obviously look at some of the questions that are flooding in now, which I can see. So we've got another one here, which is really interesting. And I'm going to put a message on the chat. So if anyone does watch it, they can look. So you can post questions here. Perfect. Okay. So what I'm going to do, there's a few questions that came through to me earlier that I'm going to talk about. And again, absolutely fantastic insights. And I'm going to share just a couple of answers from my perspective. And what we'll try and do as we get better and better at this, and we create a bit of a movement and a bit of a curiosity, we'll actually look at, again, talking across people interjecting. We'll have multiple guests on the platform, talking and sharing ideas. So it's going to be really good. One of the first questions I got was from Paul Robinson, who uses our platform, and he asked pretty much two or three questions in one, really. And it was a great one around whether it's linked to behavior, managing behavior, giving feedback, how it relates to individual players, certain players not being responsive to his feedback. My thing would be is that the biggest thing you've got to consider is how you can create an environment that reinforces the values that you want to see. But of course, the behavior has to marry the message. So, if we, as a coach, we've got to be modeling those behaviors all the time. We've got to be thinking, if I'm wanting players to take responsibility for their development, show good listening skills, be receptive to feedback, be open to feedback, challenge the coach as well as challenge each other, be on it, focused, attentive, and all the other things, then we've got to create an environment that promotes those behaviors. If we've got standards that we're not measuring or we're not maintaining, that's when things can start to slip. So if we see something that doesn't represent the values that we want or we uphold, or even our expectations, and we ignore that, we've now set the new standard. So then that becomes a bigger issue, not only in the short term, but in the longer term as well. Working with players is very difficult because you're almost on the back foot. You're in minus credit, and you've got to try and build yourself back up. So hopefully that answers some of bits of Paul's question. Again, there's a few things there where he talked about certain players might lack certain respect or be open to types of feedback. Some players even ridicule being given positive feedback. So I think there's a few issues here that may relate to more behavior management and thinking about how do we create an environment that reinforces the behaviors we want, but also really clearly outlines the expectations from them as well as from us to them to us. I will be seeing feedback in a way that's positive, that's going to challenge them and stretch them so that they can be the best version of themselves. And I would use it. And also, the biggest thing is using it more efficiently. So, when we're coaching, we've got to think often about energy. And one of the biggest things when we're managing a behavior and managing a group of people is that if there's one person that's not quite on board and they're potentially misbehaving or they're being disruptive or whatever it may be, then if we're giving attention to that and we're paying attention to those behaviors, we're actually rewarding that child in some respects. Because often any act of defiance or frustration or whatever, it's an act for a little bit of love, a little bit of attention or support. And often, more often than not, people talk about, is it attention seeking or is it affection seeking? And more often than not, it can be that people just want a little bit of love or a little bit of care. If we give them the fuel that they want, Now we aren't just dealing with one person that's misbehaving, but potentially two, three, four others, and then it becomes a whole team because people very quickly realize that in order to get the coach's focus, they've got to disrupt or they've got to act in a certain way, and that gets his attention, or it makes them. You're putting them on a platform to be the star of the show. We've got to find a different platform for them. So in those environments, the first behavior that you can demonstrate, or the first action, will be to ignore and actually reward the ones that show great listening, great attention skills, great concentration, great engagement, and really want to work with you, and encourage them and talk to them. And then talk to that individual who's being potentially disruptive aside and ask them, talk about your feedback. Ask them, why is it that when I'm trying to help you, you see that as an opportunity to do whatever or whatever it may be. So I would be saying to people, try and give attention to those who are giving you that energy back, reward them, praise the positive behaviors that you want to see more of and the positive actions. You'd be very quickly surprised how a certain child or children that pretend to be, let's say, disruptive or whatever it may be, they'll actually quickly change because they'll know that other people are on board. And lastly, as well, you can talk to them about, I don't dislike you. It's your behavior that I don't like. So they'll quickly go, all right, he's not picking on me. He doesn't dislike me. He actually likes me. So if I change my behavior, he'll like me even more. What can I do to really get the best out of the coach? And I'd be saying to the players, what do you want from this environment? What are your expectations, as well as what are our expectations of you? So whenever they come into that building, which we can control, that environment, it's very clear to everyone, and they should almost be able to write them down. What does good look like? What does outstanding, exceptional look like? What would bad look like? And you can perhaps even start with what would bad look like with the players. Have a discussion about it, and they'll be able to tell you what the bad behaviors are, what not to do, and then it might be harder for them to, and you might have to support them. All right, you know what bad and not acceptable is. All right, let's talk about what would good be. What would be a great behavior from a player? Good listening. Okay, why would that be good? Or whatever, great teammate, or whatever it may be. Or how can we reward those values? And I would say, in your coaching philosophy and even in your methodology, day to day. So this is going beyond the what. This is the how and the why to affect the who you're affecting. Who's that individual that we're trying to support within the collective? I would be looking into how can we create values and focus on those values as well as reinforce them. So the message, the behavior mirrors the message that I said at the start. Um, every session. So in one of my last clubs, we had a values which was score. So the objects of the game is to score more goals than the opposition. So of course, for it's easy to remember score. We want self-learners who are creative thinkers who take ownership for their learning, who are resilient and effective and efficient in what they do. So how in that practice can you focus on self-learning or taking ownership? Can you give them responsibilities where they lead the warm-up, or um, they decide how to make the practice more challenging or less challenging? In other clubs we've had other acronyms, and again, your values might be working hard, family, whatever words you want to use. Then it's all right. How can we really focus on that value? So if the value is family, what does that look like within that practice in tonight's session? If the value is creative thinking, how can we display that? How can we reinforce that and develop that in others? So hopefully there's some good examples there. And again, some of the other questions that we've had that have come through, which are great, is how can we best use feedback and how do you develop scanning? There's been literally several coaches that have put that on the platform through the app that have submitted to me. So that's really cool. So this is one of our biggest areas of research. We've actually got a course on the platform right now around use of feedback and transitional information, which is part of my ongoing PhD studies. And what we've found is that coaches often prescribe the solution to the player, even when they're trying to ask a question, they're pretty much hinting at what the clear right answer is. And the danger with that is that we're imposing our perception upon the player. So what I would be encouraging you to think about is how can I use feedback transitionally? So not the traditional way, which is concurrently or terminally, meaning during action or terminal at the end. And of course, you can do that. But often with those approaches, we're very prescriptive. We're often breaking down the mechanics of a skill, giving technical detail, very explicit information, and we're almost pretty much robotically saying to the player, "This is how we want you to perform this skill or this solution," or we're pretty much creating a pattern for them to recreate. And I would be saying, try and use your feedback in a way that doesn't tell the player what to do, where to look, or how to move, but gives them a clue and you're guiding their eyes. We had a great conversation on the platform with teaching expert Doug Lemov, Teach Like a Champion. And he used that phrase, one of the biggest roles of the coach is observation, being able to be really skillful in your observation and try and identify the best moments when to guide players and guide is guiding their eyes, guiding their intentions. So how can you do that? So it may be that you're using challenges or you're asking questions, or as I said before, you're giving clues, you can use analogies. And by doing so, you're putting the ability and the exploration back on the player. So the player will then look for the right moments to try and execute. Why is that important? Because we know that football, it's the same in other invasion sports, it's a complex, dynamic, forever changing, chaotic environment that requires skillful players. We need skillful players. We need players that are able to solve problems at the speed of sight. So if we know that, it's really important that we're not developing feedback in a way that relies on the player having to look to the coach for the answer. And if they're faced with a problem, which they will be, it's forever changing, it's chaotic, the game, and then they're stuck and they go to the coach, what do I do here? We want players to be game responsive. So in our duty through practice design and how we use feedback, because feedback is heavily associated with and linked and influenced by practice design, to guide the player's eyes. There's a course that we have on the platform around use of feedback, transitional information, which is where you can use feedback in a way that allows players to prepare for that next scenario without telling them what to do, so they can come up with their own adaptable movement solution. And that's because every player has their own unique and adaptable movement signature. So we all move differently, we all interact differently. So it could be, how can your pass eliminate two or more defenders here? Or it could be, show me ways or show me the right time how you can attract a defender to create space for yourself or your teammate. Or how can you receive and stay between and play between the opposition's defensive pressure that allows us to play forward? Or try to find ways for you to take your touch forward or play forward off your first touch. By using language like try to, you're giving them the license that they can, one, try or not. So it's their choice. Again, freedom that they can make mistakes. It's okay, you can try. It's not a problem if you get it wrong, it's fine. But you're also not telling them how to do it. You're allowing the player to explore and come up with their own way, their own method of adapting their body in such a way where they can recognize, actually, there's a fantastic gap here. Maybe that's the solution. Or maybe solution is to dribble. Or maybe the solution is to do this. So they'll come up with the solution, not us. And our job then is to reward those behaviors, encourage disguise and deception. We should be placing a premium value on disguise and deception. And of course, encourage players to think differently. And again, one of the last questions was around scanning. So someone's put here, how do I develop scanning? And it seems to be a bit of a hot topic at the minute. I would say, again, think about visual search. How can you develop exploration? Well, it's not about looking, because looking doesn't necessarily mean seeing. Because as a player, I can look, but it doesn't mean that I've identified and gripped onto what I need to see in order to make the solution. So the role of the coach really is to get them to understand where to look and how best to look and how often do you look and at what points do you look. So with my eyes, the gaze, and again, there's great research around, Gérard, who's speaking at Soccer Science Conference with myself in a couple of weeks' time. There's stuff with Ben Barlett, Constraining Football, his book. There's stuff around Quiet Eye. There's a lot of great stuff in there already. I would encourage you to explore some of these. And I would be saying design practices where the players are faced with problems to solve, choices. That isn't a bland answer. That is literally design practices where they have to look and it can change, meaning that there's an opposition or there's some kind of interference. Because by having interference or having the practice be opposed, you're now changing the dynamics. You're creating an environment where they're going to have to look for things. And 1 minute the player stood here, next minute he stood there, and now there's somebody else behind him or in front. So that's what you want. If you're designing practices that are quite constant, there's no interference, and it's not opposed, and their only visual information is a mannequin or a metal man, then that's a problem because it's very difficult for them to optimally grip onto information that they're going to have to look for in a forever changing game, which is their reality. So if you decontextualize the practice environment, it makes it very difficult for them when they go into a game environment. Very, very difficult. So people have done it where I've seen people design unopposed practices where they've had cones, they've lifted cones up. That's your preference. It's not to say that it's right or wrong. You can do that. The only challenge there is that the player's looking for the cone. He's not looking for anything else. And he's making the decision based on the coach. So the coach says, right, go over here, and then he goes there. The coach says, go over there, he goes there. How can we design environments that are a little bit more dynamic? So again, can it be that players are moving and he's got to recognize how and when he plays that pass in? And as he's doing so, there could be somebody who's pressurizing him from behind. So if the ball that he gets being played into, if you're doing a passing activity or possession-based activity or whatever it may be, I've seen people do passing drills. Again, you can make it more contextualized, lots more interference rather than static and constant. It could be that this player behind can step in and intercept that ball coming in. Great, because now he's got a decision to make. How do I stop this guy? Do I go meet the ball or don't I? Because a lot of players will wait for the ball to come to him. Do I take my touch here? Do I manipulate my body in this way? As I'm doing that, does that gap close up or does it change? Great. Now you're getting the player to think. And what you can then start to do is ask him some really skillful questions around what did you notice when you took your touch here? What happened to your teammate where the defender was? Where was the defender as you took it? You can phrase it however you want, but you're starting to go on a bit of an exploration journey with the player. And that's key because it might be, as you made this decision here, what did you notice was a consequence of that? Right, okay. Oh, what could you have done differently next time? How can your touch allow you to play forward without losing possession of the ball or eliminate the duel? How can your touch eliminate that defender? Or where else could you run or where else can you stand in order to be in the best position to retain possession and play forward? Oh, well, I could go over here. Why does he know that? Why has he said that to you? Because he's had to look. He's had to literally scan. He's had to search and explore the environment and go, actually, I should be over here. So they're some of the things that you could do. There's some great questions still coming through the app. I've just seen Zane. Great to see you. So excited to see you on. So thank you. Zane's popped a question. Is there a best practice for getting youth players to understand pressing triggers? I think some of the best practices you can do. I don't think there's one particular practice because every practice can be designed based on the needs of your players, right? And again, circumstances change, numbers change, pitch geography might change. Pressing triggers. Where is it? Are we trying to regain the ball anywhere on the pitch? Is it regaining the ball in the middle of third and setting traps? Is it regaining the ball high up the pitch? Is it recognizing how to press and stop the shot on the edge of our box? So it will vary, and it will vary because obviously every player is different. you're almost designing, the role of the coach is to design these environments really specific to the who the individual is in front of them. And one example could be, one of the best practices could be that think about the area that you're in, think about what numbers are in that particular situation, and I would be drawing the pitch geography to create a problem where, let's say, the players have to go and hunt the ball. Let's say we're trying to win the ball high up the pitch. So think about the format and the game model that you're in, the format of the game, stage of the game you're at. Is it 7v7? Is it 9v9? Is it 11v11? Because that'll dictate the pitches that they're going to see. Who's receiving the ball from where? So you could design a practice where, as they're receiving the ball from potentially a goalkeeper or a server, or they're getting a ball from another source. It could be from a throw-in. We'd never often work on practices like that, but it could be from another source. They've got to work on receiving skills as well. Then it could be, right, are these the triggers to jump? These 2 or 3 players go and try and win the ball high up the pitch. Or in your little mini thirds game with horizontal thirds, or it could be, there's a million and one, to be honest with you. There's so many designs, but the principles probably remain the same in that you've got to design a practice where there's a clear objective to score. So for the team that's building up and trying to break the press, there's a clear method of scoring for them that they can hurt the opposition and really hurt them, whether they're scoring this counter goal, scoring the target, whatever it may be. And in doing so, that means that there's a consequence for if the defenders don't recognize the right trigger to press, that they can get hurt. That's great. So now you're giving yourself a real problem to solve. And I would be saying to the players, recognize when the opposition are in good possession or bad possession. Good possession meaning that they've got options on the ball, they've got time and space, and they can make the pass. Or bad possession meaning that actually you've created a trap. They haven't got a lot of time and space on the ball. They haven't got many options. And you're almost encouraging them to play a certain way, and you force them into a mistake. And then you can design practices around that. So hopefully that answers your question, Zane. Design a practice where players can then recognise, right, this player's received the ball, he's had a touch, it's a bad touch. That might be a great opportunity now to jump because my mate is shutting off that pass in there. We're encouraging this one. We won't win the first ball, but we'll definitely win the second. And we'll try and get it. And then I would be encouraging loads of scenarios. So using scenarios, using incentives, rewards, like what if we regain the ball in this area of the pitch, encounter in 3 passes or less, it's worth 3 goals. If we regain the ball and we do this and score not, it's only worth 1. Or it could, depending on what values you want to reinforce, it could be, even if it's as simple as understanding when and how to press and the triggers to do so. It might be, how often can you how many times can you regain the ball in the next 5 minutes that disrupts the opposition's ability to go forward, to play forward? The number of times you do that equals the number of goals you score. So straight away, they've got to recognise, we've gone there and we've gone too soon and they've played through. So now, because every time that the opposition play through you, it deducts 1 goal off your tally. So they're now 1-0 up. But then in the next couple of minutes, you might intercept or you might block, you might go out for a throw-in, you go and win it again, you counter and score. So now it's 3-1 and you're stacking the score up. But then they break out again. Now it's 2-2. So there's a great practice for you, Zane. Now, by creating a scoring mechanism where it's competitive, the players in the practice are really going for it. So there's an intensity. They know that if they're building up, there's a reward for them. The defending team aren't just defending. They get to score goals and counter. But they also know that, hang on a minute, if we don't get this right, it can hurt us, which is recreating the game. So there's lessons to be learned there. And it's a great opportunity for you to use your feedback to go into those details of what did you see there that made you want to go and try and go for that ball. Okay, so as you've gone there, where do you need to be now? Because he might have made that decision. You might not want him to go, but if he's gone and pressed, if we press him once, they'll pick us off. So how can we stay compact? So go together, arrive together, stay together. So it's those details. How can we be compact? How can we keep the space between the lines? So hopefully some of those stuff answers your questions, Zane. And if anyone else has got any questions, let me know. I did say it was going to be around 20 minutes. I ended up spending about 7 or so minutes chatting at the start because we ended up changing the link. So I think we're about time. So thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. We're going to get even better every time. We're going to get better at doing this. It's my first, thanks, Zane. It's my first live stream that I've ever done, and we're going to market it even better next time. We're going to make it more interactive. We're going to do it through the app and obviously on YouTube, and we're just going to keep this coming. It's great to see that we've had some questions come through live and questions, obviously via the app as well, that have been sent to my email. So really, really excited. And again, if you aren't on the platform already, if you're just watching this now after the recording, really encourage you to go on the platform. Great resource where you're not just going to get the what, but you're also going to get the who, the how, and the why, which is really, really key. We can all talk about the what, but it really comes back to who are the players in front of you, how are you going to do it, and why. Why is it relevant to them? Thank you for tuning in, and look forward to sharing more lessons with you. We're going to make this regular every week. So see you next week.